we are live. Welcome back to the Inside Texas channel. Here for the what you got to know about Texas and Kentucky. Hey, man, it feels a lot better to do this coming off a win. After Florida, a little bit tough. Got my guy Nash Talks Texas here, top right. Evan Veith, also representing Inside Texas, bottom right. And our guest for the week, Mr. Dylan Ballard. Dylan, welcome to the channel. And how are we doing tonight, brother?
Doing phenomenal, guys. Ready for some football. Kentucky coming off a bye week. Ready to see Texas play. Ready. I know maybe Arch hasn't been. We'll get into all that, but everybody thought he would be. But I think it's just going to be cool to see a Manning. I think it's the hype that's surrounding it. It's going to be cool to see him in person. So I'm excited for Texas to come to town. You got to, when you're a Kentucky football covering person, or if you're a Kentucky fan, you got to get excited about the small wins, and that's just like getting to see other players play. So, I'm excited for football.
Man, it kind of feels like you're lulling us in for a trap right there. You're already just like, oh, we just want to see the Manning, and we want to see a couple of the studs. Real quick, guys, go ahead and hop on over to InsideTexas.com. You can join right now for just a single $1. Of course, the number one place for all Texas news, insider analysis, in-depth scoop, recruiting information. A lot of that going around this time of year. Signing day is approaching. Go ahead, hop on over to Inside Texas, check out the forums. A lot of fun right now, especially during the season, guys. So hop on over there, check that out. But let's get back to it. Dylan, real quick, man, tell everybody, for those that don't know you, tell them where they can find all of your content covering Kentucky at.
Yeah, guys. So if you follow me on Twitter, or I guess it's now known as X. If you follow me on X, I cover Kentucky there for a Sea of Blue, which is owned by SB Nation. By trade, I'm a real estate CEO. I run a real estate brokerage. I don't sell anymore, but then so that's what I do day to day. And then I take pictures and write articles of the Kentucky about and of the Kentucky Wildcats for SB Nation. I've been doing it for a long time, and I really, really enjoy it. As you guys probably know too, I wish sports media paid better because I did this so that I could do it and that be all I do. But so I do real estate by day, and then it's a full-time job covering the Cats as well, which I'm super blessed. I have a great editor. I work for a great site. They do well for what I want out of it. And man, it's just, I live the dream. I get to write and take pictures of the team while still getting to work a job that I love day in and day out. So follow me on X, Dylan Ballard _UK. I'd love to connect with some Texas fans.
That's what I was going to say, man. I'm glad we're connecting here. I have one. I've reached in. I feel like I've made my way into several fan bases throughout the SEC: Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, numerous ones. Not really Kentucky, but I have one Kentucky follower that I know of. I asked them, "Hey, if you were going to reach out and ask anybody from the Kentucky side to do a preview, who would you ask?" And they brought you up. So Dylan, you're obviously well thought of over there. Keep killing it.
Well, I appreciate that. Whoever that one follower is, tell them. They can follow a lot better than me, but I appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, obviously, Texas football's first trip, to Kentucky. Evan, when you look at this game, obviously, Texas coming off a big win, riding a little bit high. Where do you think Texas's focus level is going into this one?
I mean, it's got to be high, right? They're still operating on this every game's a national championship game because, as we discussed on Inside Texas today, we were kind of doing does 10-2 work for Texas? Will 9-3 work? I err on the side of 9-3 is not going to work for the Longhorns, and that's what we're expected to do going out. But that starts with not losing here. And, of course, Steve Sarkisian's team came out against Oklahoma and showed everything they needed to. And that's what you'd expect them to come out to this week as well. They probably are keeping that same mentality, but they can't be trapped. I know Nash wrote a lot about the kind of trap game aspect of this, but that just can't happen this weekend for Texas.
I fully agree with you. How about you, Nash? Are you a similar opinion there? Is it, are you thinking they might get trapped, or what do you expect the focus level to be?
No, I mean, I was just mainly kind of pointing out that the games after the Red River have generally been a one-score game. Like, it's like we're edging out these wins in a really close fashion. So, I mean, that's a trap game in that aspect, that if we are not focused at all, I mean, we're going on the road to Kentucky. I mean, this is just like this could end up being the biggest game of their lives. Being able to spoil the number one, like the preseason number one team, being able to spoil their, ruin their, like Evan said, 9-3 is not going to cut it. Especially if 2 of your losses are to Kentucky and Florida, like your CFP hopes are done, right? At that point, you're basically kind of I know like Steve Sarkisian will never say it, right? Like, but playing for like these, even if it's like a higher level bowl, playing for that's at this point that's meaningless with the college football playoff. So at that point, you're basically playing for next year.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, you don't 7 games in, you have 3 losses, preseason number 1. Yeah, any bowl game that you played in, that's not a college football playoff bowl game. That of course, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It would be very meaningless. What are the vibes around Lexington right now, Dylan? Is it? I know there's a varying opinions on Mark Stoops. His a little bit of a mess. And think about the A&M
Yeah.
situation. Now he's back. What do you guys think of Coach Stoops, and where are y'all at with him? And then as far as Texas coming to town, do you feel like, hey, this is a good opportunity to spring a trap on Texas, or is it kind of like, man, hope we can just stay in the game?
As much as those two things that you asked me don't have any really correlation to each other because of the way that the people are focused, I'm glad that you asked both of them at the same time, because that was the way I wanted to answer this question because of one reason. How do fans feel about Mark Stoops? Fans are ready for this era to be over. It is no secret. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. See, when John Calipari left, there was still a loud minority of fans who were younger that didn't know Kentucky basketball could be good without John Calipari. I know that sounds crazy, but think about it. You're a 20-year-old kid in college. You've been paying taxes for 2 years, and you've lived out, away from your home for 2 years. Think about this. When John Wall came to town, and I'm leading into this, when John Wall came to town, you were 4 years old. That was 16 years ago. You know nothing other than John Calipari. Well, just think if you were 8 when John Calipari got here and you're 24 or 25. I mean, you'd be 26. That means the only basketball at Kentucky you ever knew from 6 and 7 years old, what you can remember, is Billy Gillespie. So you think that John Calipari is Kentucky basketball after 16 years, right? So you think John Calipari is Kentucky basketball, and when he's going to a 3 seed and losing in the round of 32, you're thinking, well, that's fine. We'll get back eventually. So when John Calipari was on his way out, and the fans that were older that had seen, Tubby win a title, maybe Eddie, or maybe Rick Pitino win a title, you saw those kind of guys. You knew that Kentucky had more in the tank. Then you watched Cal win a title. Cal was absolutely the best coach in the early 2010s for Kentucky basketball, and he was the only man that could have done what he did, and he resurrected the thing. But when it was time for him to go, it was time for him to go. And the reason I say all that to say this, because we're going to talk about football, I promise. I'm leading into this. There was a loud minority of fans in Lexington that still wanted John Calipari because that's all they knew, guys. We are to the point with Mark Stoops. There's not a minority that wants him here at all. They are ready for him to go. And to be paired with that, the majority of the fans, maybe those same younger fans, are the exception. Most of them are super appreciative and will admit that Mark Stoops took Kentucky football, and I know for Texas fans it's crazy to hear, that took Kentucky football to a place that we didn't know it could go. And I know that sounds nuts, but guys, we have 2 10-win seasons in our school's history, and they were both under Mark Stoops. And they were with Will Levis at quarterback, and then when Benny Snell and Josh Hines Allen were here. So with that being said, though, I think Mark Stoops has stayed too long. We're going on our 3rd season that has been rough, and he's really starting to hurt his legacy here. I'll personally say this. I like Mark Stoops, but I also work in the media, and I know Mark Stoops, and he has been absolutely phenomenal to me. When John Calipari was here, it was hard for me to say that because John Calipari was a jerk to the media. Mm-hmm. But Mark Stoops is nice. When I see Mark Stoops out in town, hey Dylan, how's it going? I saw you've got a kid now. How's that going? John Calipari sees me at Jeff Ruby's when I'm with my wife on the anniversary. We got an anniversary cake sitting in front of us. He's walking by and not speaking. And I interview the man twice a week. Like it's hard to sit here and say that because Mark is so nice. You know what I'm saying? And he is so kind to the media, and he's been so good to us over the years. But guys, it is past time because like I said, with John Calipari, there were still people that wanted him here. And that's why I say that. All they say is it shows you how tired of Mark Stoops they are because they want him gone at all cost. It's a small minority of the fan base that says this, guys, but I think there's fans that want to lose out the rest of the year so that it gives Mitch Barnhart no other option but to get rid of Mark Stoops. Because they are so tired.
Like that.
Huh?
I was just saying, yeah, I know people that think like that on our side as well.
Yeah, but you guys are sitting here talking about still making the college football playoff, guys. I think Kentucky's probably going to finish the year with 4 wins. As far as what's this Saturday look like, and that I'm glad you asked me the question. So with Mark Stoops, they're ready to be gone. See, Mark Stoops, I saw his name is in heavy contention for the Virginia Tech job. I actually think that's best case scenario for everybody because Mark Stoops is good and the ACC is bad. Mark Stoops was phenomenal here for 10 years. He just stayed way too long at a school like Kentucky. You got to go make your hay and get out. Best scenario in the world for us would have been him leave and go to Texas A&M because he would have left after that Will Levis year, and we'd all been like, man, I wish he would have stayed. But in the long run, we would have only remembered fondly. Now we've got 3 years of us just being terribly undisciplined. And guys, we had 4 draft picks last year, and 2 of them were in the top 2 rounds. And 2 guys that are starting at high-level schools at wide receiver that are killing it and went 4-8. It was a discipline problem. Dane Key has scored a touchdown in every single game for Nebraska. Barryon Brown has made incredible plays at LSU. Deion Walker is leading all rookies in the NFL in tackles. And you're telling me that team couldn't win 5 games? And so it's all discipline and coaching. He stayed too long. Time has passed him by. But I enjoy Mark Stoops, and I think they need to name buildings after him here someday. But I just think it's time to transition. With that being said, Mark Stoops always wins one game that you don't expect him to. I don't expect it to be this Saturday, but I think Kentucky's got Tennessee Tech left on the schedule. They will win that game. Tennessee Tech's undefeated in FCS, and that kind of scares me, as crazy as that is to say. But Mark Stoops will win one game that he shouldn't. I don't expect it to be Texas because of all that you guys have on the plate. But I wouldn't be shocked if this game's close. Last year, Mark Stoops went to Ole Miss and won. Last year, Mark Stoops lost to Georgia by 1 point when we had a pick 6 that they called incorrectly. That was a pick 6, and they said it wasn't when they went and overturned it. To overturn it, they said there wasn't enough to overturn it, and it was a pick 6. I mean, he should have beat Georgia last year. He's close when you think he's going to get blown out. And then the games you think will be close, he gets blown out. We just got beat to death by South Carolina and then kept it within 2 touchdowns of Georgia. So I think with Tennessee, with Florida, with Auburn, with Louisville, with Vandy left on the schedule, I think they pick up one game that maybe they shouldn't technically, and then they beat Tennessee Tech, and then we move on from Mark Stoops. And I think 4 or 5 years from now he can come back and we'll cheer him. But for right now, people will be happy he's gone. And the buyout, those crazy guys, the buyout is crazy. That's all the talk around here. Everybody's saying James Franklin, but he has an offset. If you count that offset, Mark Stoops would be Mark Stoops would be the highest paid buyout in history that's not Texas A&M. Summerall or Sumlin or whatever his name was, the guy that coached Johnny Manziel, and Jimbo are the 2 biggest ever. If you include the offset that Franklin will get, Stoops would have the biggest buyout in history, and that's crazy at Kentucky. But we're entering into an era where we can't keep going down the road we're going. So I think they'd have to find the money. And guys, here's the thing: Penn State James Franklin, his is due over like 8 years. Mark Stoops is due in 60 days. $37 million in 60 days. So the guy is kind of fighting for his job, but he kind of probably wants to be fired. I mean, pay me $37 million to sit at home, and he doesn't have an offset. If he goes and coaches somewhere else, they don't have to pay it back. Like if James Franklin goes and even makes $100,000 to coach UNLV, James, they have to pay the $100,000 to Penn State. Mm-hmm. If Mark Stoops wanted to go get another job for $5 million a year, guys, he's putting that in his pocket. Like the worst contract in history. I actually like our AD. Most people in our fan base don't actually really like him. We're number 2 in volleyball. We have one of the best basketball programs in the country. Our women's basketball coach. We have a top 5 coach. We have a top softball program. Like we're really good in everything but football right now, and I know that's the moneymaker. But I actually like it. But he signed the worst contract in the history of the sport. I think. You know what I mean? Knowing what boosters he has in the fan base. But all in all, I think you guys come in and probably win big. I think you need a statement win like that. I know you had one last week, but I think a bad team like Kentucky, guys, Kentucky hasn't scored 3 touchdowns in a Power 4 game in 3 years since Will Levis was here.
Mayo man.
Kind of sounds like
you
the
know,
Oklahoma offense.
Hey, yeah, they haven't scored
Yeah,
2
right.
touchdowns in a single SEC game. So
Yeah, well, we did last week, or
2
we did
offensive
last game. It
touchdowns.
was first time. It's first time in a long time. Cutter Boley threw 2 touchdowns. It's the first time since Devin Leary that somebody threw 2 touchdowns in a game.
I mean, that is really, really hard to think about. You know, we saw a pretty bad decade of Texas offense for the most part. Yeah, I mean, that's hard to fathom, wrapping your head around 3 touchdowns against a Power 4 team since Will Levis. That's great. Touching on one other thing, I am shocked to hear about, some SEC officials having a rough Saturday. I mean, that just perplexes me. They're just so good and consistent, competent.
Always consistent, right? Like,
right.
Never overturn a timeout because a coach told somebody that he was clapping or anything like that. I mean, just never something crazy like that happened. But guys, I'm excited to see Arch. I think that'd be really cool. I know it's not been what everybody hoped. I told somebody at the beginning of the year when I saw him at SEC Media Days, hey, that kid's going to be good, but y'all got to halt the brakes. I mean, he's a kid that's never started but 2 games in his career. Like, I know y'all probably were eating it up. I would if I had a quarterback like that, but I think Arch is going to be fine long term. He'll come out next year and set the world on fire. Unless he's got somebody's ear pushing him to the NFL when he's not ready. I mean, Arch is going to set the world on fire next year, and I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, the kid's going to be good. I think he's just not had a ton of experience. He's in a big spotlight. He's got a heavy weight to carry. The NIL money and all that's cool, being a Manning, but I think he'll be fine. I think you guys will be fine. And here's the thing, Mark Stoops' teams over the years, guys, I've watched a lot of football that looked like I was watching Iowa football over the years. A lot. You can tell Mark Stoops played at Iowa. But I've won a lot of games, guys, that have been 21-17. But Kentucky doesn't have that level of defense anymore either. And it was okay when you had Will Levis and Wan'Dale Robinson and you had a top 10 defense in the country and you had Chris Rodriguez. I mean, you had 3 starters in the NFL, right, at your main 3 positions, and then a top 10 defense. Yeah, that was fine to win a game 28-14. But, guys, when your defense is giving up 350 passing yards or 400 passing yards, and you still have the worst offense in Power 4 with a freshman quarterback, it's not very fun.
Real small path to victory. We'll keep talking with Dylan, guys. Let's hear a word from our sponsor, Laura Baker, real quick first.
If you're looking for a home in the Austin area, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. Laura's a part of the elite Andy Allen team at Keller Williams Realty. She's helped Longhorns find their dream homes all over Central Texas. You can just ask our very own Ian Boyd, who moved from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Whether you're searching in Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, San Marcos, or even parts of the 254 or the 210, Laura has you covered. So call 512-784-0505, or you can email her at laura@andyallenteam.com. She's a Longhorn, a friend of Inside Texas, and the person you need to call to get your next home in Central Texas. Call Laura Baker today. Contact info is in the description.
Dylan, you start talking Kentucky basketball, man.
Before we go into that, whatever you're about to say, Can one of you boys send me that Laura Baker's phone number? Because I actually run and own a KW, and I'm going to be in Austin in 3 weeks, and I was going to ask a real estate question to somebody. So I know that sounds funny, but like I seen that commercial, and I own part of a Keller Williams here in Kentucky.
Wow, no coincidences, man. Yeah, we got to get you the number.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pop it. We'll get it. I'll get it. They'll send it to you in a message after this. But no, I remember the very first basketball, and again, we're not here talking basketball. I just have to make the point. You talked a lot about Cal Park, Tubby, Patino. First basketball game I think I can ever remember watching was the '97 Arizona Kentucky, national title. I think it went to OT. Not going to talk about who won the game, but a lot of respect.
If it played Derek Anderson, we would have.
I love that, man. Almost 3 decades ago, and you're like, I could have got this at W, dang it. But no, man, I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, Kentucky has always shown up under Mark Stoops in one game where it's like, wow, y'all had Georgia on the ropes. You did kind of, would you win 2 out of 3 with Ole Miss over a 3-year span, or am I crazy?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. You know what I mean? And again, on the road at the SIP. that defense though is different. There is no Deion Walker, as you mentioned, and the threats that you had in a Dane Key and Barry Brown. Again, like you said, when you're not winning, man, and the talent that you do have, it becomes so easy to poach in this era. You know what I mean? Hey, we
Sure.
need you to complete this offense, and so, in my opinion, that is why it is time to turn over a new leaf as far as a head coach goes. And it's not disrespect to Mark Stoops. Sounds like he has a pretty dang good relationship with the people at Kentucky. He treats you well. I'm sure you're not the only person he's treating well there. So, yeah, it's like, man, maybe he wants to get fired, but at least he still seems to be maintaining the relationships. Of course, I don't think he actually wants to get fired. Kind of hard not to, though. I mean, it's a lot of money. But, there's a lot of names out there when you look at
You could pay me a lot less than $38 million to sit on my couch.
Yeah. He's getting a nice chunk of cash if he's getting fired, man. I mean, so sounds like not a bad gig.
And I mean, again, expectations have never been too high. In Lexington, but
if you win 7 games here, guys, they're going to build statues of you. The practice facility is named after a coach that the max he ever won was 8 games.
Well, let me ask you this, Dylan. If the script went well for the folks in what Kentucky Blue on Saturday, who is Texas going to remember? If is there a couple playmakers on offense that you think,
it's
hey,
probably,
if we
it's
can
probably
get them
a
loose?
guy. It's probably a guy you guys already know, Seth McClellan, that used to be at Oklahoma. You guys remember him? He played quite a bit, got into some trouble with the wrong crowd. I won't get into the details of that. He tells his story, and I'll let him tell it. The guy's really changed a lot since then. That's been 3 or 4 years ago. Took a path to JUCO and then to New Mexico State and killed it there. He is 3rd in the SEC in rushing and 5th in the SEC in touchdowns, and we've already had both buys. Before we had our buys, when everybody was on the same playing field, he actually was leading the SEC in touchdowns and 2nd in rushing, despite being on the worst offense in Power 4. So if there's any hope at all, it's going to come from Seth McClellan. He's really the only bright spot on the offense. Cutter Boley showed some exciting things against Georgia, threw some touchdowns, really looked good. But also against South Carolina, he probably played the worst game we've seen a quarterback play at Kentucky in the Mark Stoops era. And a lot of fans around here like him because he's from Lexington. He's a good kid. His dad was a big-time athlete in this area in high school when he was here. And I really like Cutter as a kid. And I think he's got a lot of a really bright future. So if we get a new coach and they bring in their own quarterback, Cutter will be a starter somewhere at a high level. He's just a freshman, though. That's the part, right? It's a freshman starting in the SEC on a team that's not good at all. Right. So Cutter could do something. Because, he looked great against Georgia, but he also played maybe the worst game we've ever seen a quarterback play at Kentucky with Mark Stoops at the helm, the week before at South Carolina. So we'll just have to see. But if anybody does anything, it's going to be Seth McClellan. He is really, really good, and they're in eligibility rules right now. Court to see if he gets a year back, where it was kind of his own fault there at Oklahoma. But if he gets another year, he's going to be really good somewhere else. And he'll leave, and I wouldn't blame him. He'll be at Alabama, Georgia, Texas, somewhere like that next year if he gets that extra year of eligibility. It'll be interesting to see because he's really, really good. Like I said, we've already had both buys, and he's 3rd and 5th when it comes to the 2 major rushing stats.
No, he's a really impressive back, man, and glad. I'm rooting for all these kids. Want everyone to succeed. Glad that he's kind of figured things out. Like you said, he's on a much better path now. And hey, sometimes it's as simple as getting in with the wrong people, and things can happen quickly. So I do love Seth as a back, man. He's fun to watch. He's powerful. He's got good feet, good vision. He does all the things that you'd want to see. He has potential to play at the next level. And clearly, that was always the expectation for that guy. But on the defensive side of the ball, if Texas were to struggle, if our inconsistent offensive line, who is growing along with Arch Manning, his growth will, as part of that growth with the O line.
That's another thing to watch. We're really bad at almost every position, but our defensive line's really good. They poured a lot of money into it in the off season. So that I've been wanting to. I was going to say that's a position to watch. I know y'all's O line's not what it normally is. And our D-line is actually probably SEC level. It's probably the only position group outside of running back that's SEC level, if I'm being honest. But I'd say 4 of our best defensive players are 4 of our top 5 best defensive players are on the D-line.
Well said. I agree with you there. You saw Florida, pull out the blueprint of, big personnel packages, running the football with a really good back, and then letting a D-line go to work against an offensive line that was still figuring a lot of things out. Listening to you speak, maybe everywhere else on the field might be a little bit different, but it sounds like Kentucky, can somewhat follow that blueprint to the degree of the same success. We'll find out on Saturday. But how do you think the Wildcats attack this Texas team in particular on the offensive side of the ball?
They're just trying to run the football. That's just all they've got. And then try to let Cutter throw some big plays because kid's got a big arm. And then try to hit them when they're open. Wide receivers are getting no separation. Kendrick Law is a really good wide receiver, but he's doing better when you get the ball in his hands on screens and slants and then trying to make space into his own area. There's not been a ton of excitement this year, but when there's been excitement, a lot of them came from him. So I guess the plan's going to be to run, and then hit either one of the tight ends or Kendrick Law when you get the opportunity. I don't know what kind of plan they can have, guys. I'm not trying to be dramatic. This team's not really good at all. They're really bad. And there's really no way around it. They're just not good, and people are just really over it. I'm interested to see how much orange is in there come Saturday. I'll be there taking pictures. And I know there's a lot of orange coming up. They're going to go to Keeneland, pull the old doubleheader. But tickets are expensive right now. I think it's a lot of Texas fans wanting in. A lot of fans are wanting to see Arch. But guys, it's hard for me to see them having too much of a plan to win. I guess just do whatever you can. And they might pull it off. Mark, like I said, Mark pulls it off one a year. Probably shouldn't. But I wouldn't shock me if they really just if you got I could see this game being 35-13 or something like that.
I will say I do have it 30-13 because I do think Texas puts an emphasis on stopping the run. Again, but Texas going to have to go show that they can continue their growth on the offensive line because that Kentucky defensive line is really, really talented. And if Texas can't run the football, he'll parch out a little bit. We've seen breakdowns in pass protection. I think, if I'm Kentucky, I need to have multiple drives that go 7 minutes plus. You know what I mean? You want to keep your defense rested on the sideline. Really, like you said, run Seth McClellan, pound that guy. You're going to have to go everywhere against this Texas defense. They're going to have to go inside and outside, but then mix it in with some play action shots. Evan, Nash, any of you gentlemen, or either of you gentlemen have any questions for our guest Dylan before we let him get out of here?
Yeah, I'm just curious about these transfer O-line because they're 6'7", 6'8" on that line, and it seems like you guys got a blueprint there that at least works pretty well.
Yeah, I think Mark Stoops has went through 6 transitions of play callers in 6 years, which was 5 OCs because of Liam Cohen twice. Nothing against Bushhampton. I just don't think he's very good. And I think, though, when you went through 6 in 6 years, it's hard to attract talent. If I was hiring an assistant every year to work my front desk, I'm going to get less and less talent if the name around town is that he won't keep anybody. So I actually think the O-line's decent. Not great. One of the guys they spent the most money on, Shizaz Pete, struggles a little bit in pass protection, but he's really good in run block. The run block has been really good, and that pairs well with Seth McClellan, but passing hasn't been great, and then Cutter gets tore up pretty easy. I mean, he's a freshman. But the O-line has actually looked decent. Pete had a really bad game against South Carolina. I would think he's probably the highest paid on the offensive line, too. But he's been good the rest of the year. Offensive line is not like the best. Like you guys know, I don't know if you guys follow Kentucky or how deep. You weren't in the SEC at the time. But, guys, we were runner-up for Joe Moore Award back-to-back years for having the best O-lines in the country. And they called us the Big Blue Wall. We're not that by no means, but I would think we're a middle-of-the-pack offensive line. It's not been great, but it's not been bad. It's just they did recruit well to the O-line. It's just there's not a ton of playmakers at wide receiver. You've got a young quarterback, and your defense just gives up points so quick. You're back on the field, and then you got a really not a great play caller. And then Mark Stoops kind of suppresses the OCs like Liam Cohen is the world's whiz, and we barely had a top 15 offense with 3 NFL starters at skill positions when he was here. So I think Mark Stoops kind of suppresses the offense and tries to get them to slow it down to give his defense time to rest. He wants to win by run the football and play defense. But the O-line's not been the problem. It's not great, but it's not been the problem. You know what I'm saying? They spent a lot of money and time in it. That's a great question because that was an emphasis in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you, Nash?
I think I was going to say I agree a lot with what you said about Carter Boley. I mean, I think he actually looked pretty nice versus Texas last year. I think he averaged 9.8 yards per pass. But I think that he's one of these guys that like he has these. He's gonna have these flashes that you're like, oh wow, there's a really athletic quarterback. There's a guy that
talent there.
And then there's some times that you're like, okay, yeah, there's the boneheaded play that you're gonna see from a young guy. And then Seth McClellan. I mean, that dude, he's like forcing like 30% broken tackles plus missed tackles per attempt. I mean, like this dude he's legit. So, I mean, this is like that's one of the guys that kind of I would like that would make me point to like going, hey, yeah, like kind of almost like Ford said. There's like the Jaden Baugh type guy that like, hey, we better like start tackling this guy early on, or else we might find ourselves 2 drives down, and then it's like, oh crap. We can't find ourselves 10 down 10-0,
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
You haven't seen this Texas team come from behind enough.
Hey, Ole Miss spotted us 10 and the ball on the 50, and we lost. You're fine.
You are right there. We'll see if Texas can replicate what they found on the run game last week against Oklahoma, but they've schemed Oklahoma up very, very well on the ground for the past 4 years. So we'll see, man. I mean, I do feel confident, but then again, the more that you talk about Boley and him being from Lexington, they're playing a night home game. You got Seth McClellan, who's I'm sure he will be extra motivated to play against Texas, considering where his first, where he
guys, all you got to do is score 24 points and the game's over. It's literally over. I mean, honestly, you could probably get to 17 and it's over. We scored on the first 2 drives against South Carolina and didn't score the rest of the game. I mean, guys, this offense is miserable. Miserable. There's some talent on the defense. Big thing that helps them is they've been getting 8 alive on one side of the football. When it comes to the passing game, they were too deep at corner, and then it's just a bunch of freshmen after that. They kind of spent their money on the starters because everybody left last year, mass exodus, and we have one side that they just pick on, and that's starting corners back. So I mean, maybe it's the defense has a better game than we expect, but I mean, I'd be shocked. I'd give us like a 15% chance to win this game, and at a home night game after Keeneland, which is the best place in the world, and the fans are all buttered up after a good day of horse racing. Still, I'd give us like a 15% chance to win.
Sound like you're talking about Texas basketball.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Texas basketball is a lot better than Kentucky football.
I sure hope so, man. Big Sean Miller fan. Dylan, hey, brother, thank you so much for joining us and educating us and the viewers a little bit on some Kentucky football. Have a good rest of your evening, man. We'd love to get you back on, maybe some hoops action down the line. I'm sure there's some Kentucky fans who already can hear the basketball dribbling, in the back of their mind a little bit.
Yeah, they ain't already kind of hearing it. We just had 24,000 people at Big Blue Madness. That's not even a scrimmage. It's just dudes doing a 3-point shootout and a dunk contest and doing some intros. And they're having a blue-white scrimmage tomorrow that's sold out as well. Next Friday, when Kentucky gets beat to death by Texas, it's full checkout mode because they play the number 1 team in the country, Purdue, next Friday. It's basketball season around here, boys. It's already checked. Don't worry about that. We could beat Texas tomorrow and everybody will be like, we got a basketball scrimmage tomorrow night, boys. I mean, it's basketball time here in the Bluegrass.
It's like those Matt Mitchell videos where he's already like every school he's doing his football breakdowns, and when he gets to Kentucky, he's got all the basketball stuff up. He's like, it's basketball season already.
It is. I mean, I wrote 2 articles today on basketball. I did a basketball interview today. And I was like, oh, shoot, my family, we have a tailgate that like 30 people come to that we've been doing for years. And everybody's like, shoot, we forgot to text what food we're doing this week. Anybody still tailgating? And it's Texas. I mean, guys, it's basketball season around here. Our calendar's already changed.
Bluegrass and basketballs, baby. That's what Kentucky does.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for everything you guys do. And thanks for having me on. You guys got a great show. And I appreciate y'all's time. Y'all have a great rest of your show.
All right, Dylan. Thanks so much, brother. All right, guys, we're going to talk more about the Texas side of things as they get ready to travel to Kentucky Saturday. But first, let's hear a word from sponsor David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All right, guys. Texas, I mean, we talked about the focus level. I hate to say it like this, but I mean, that feels like half the battle at minimum in this game. Just show up and do what the hell you're supposed to do. And this Kentucky team shouldn't have the horses to hang around. If this offensive line takes another step up, if Arch Manning continues to progress the way he has the last few weeks, I mean, yeah, like Dylan said, it's really hard to fathom Kentucky breaking 20 points. And I mean, honestly, if they got within a touchdown of that, I got it 30-13. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. For you, Evan, though, how confident are you? Let's go on a 1 to 10 scale. And then what does Texas do well in this game if they are victorious?
I think I'm actually going to go a little less confident. You think like a 6.5, because I do think this is kind of their test mode. I'm going to have an article coming out tomorrow just about like how they interact with the run, the play action game. And Arch has not been great off play action. And I think they're going to kind of throw him to the wind in this game and try to get the runs to work early, try to get him on bootlegs, get him out in the field and actually hit some deep shots. So I think there's going to be a few offensive series where you're a little less happy with the end result of it, but it's building up for bigger plays down the field and also down the line of the season, really. But like you look at this Kentucky team and what they've done in the past, and 3 of their last 4 home games in the SEC have been one-score games against better teams. We talked about that Georgia game, talked about Ole Miss this year. 2 of those 3 games were at night. Like I know there's a lot of pessimism about this team, but when you go to Kroger Field at night and their fans are still at least not fully checked out, like there's going to be a crowd there. This is an SEC team. They'd probably be like the 11th best Big Ten team. So it's a deep conference. I don't think there's any games that you can truly take for granted here.
Oh, well said. How about you, Nash? Same question.
Here, ask the question again. Sorry.
Now to say, where's your confidence at? Not just ask for on 1 to 10.
I probably, I want to say 8, but I'd probably be lying. I'm probably projecting as 7.5. Like it's, and I think I'm docking it really because when you got the Cole Hudson's out, I believe, right? Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. So I mean, starting Connor Robertson there first time here. I mean, there's a lot of upside with Connor Robertson. I think like that's kind of the whole thing. Like he might be better, right? But Cole Hudson's going to be a lot more consistent, right? And you know what you're getting out of Cole. So that's going to be interesting to see, with Connor Robertson in for the first time with Arch Manning as a starter. But I think that Steve Sarkisian's going to try and, like Evan said, roll Arch Manning out. I think you're going to see a lot of like almost similar to what we did versus Ohio State, but like let's see if he can land these throws, because if he's landing these throws, I mean, that game plan probably works a lot better,
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre Moore is wide open on a few of these routes, so that's going to be really interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to stick with about 7.5.
I'm rarely the most confident guy in the group, but I think I am this week simply because I do have faith. I do think that we get a pretty good effort out of Connor Robertson at center. Again, Connor Stroh also, we're not putting the injury report up, but we do mention that Connor Stroh is also out, and that has become now somewhat of a depth piece at guard. And then again, as Nash said, Cole Hudson out. Not going to see Xavier Filsaime in this game. I think that about cover. That's the only changes from yesterday, I believe. But overall, man, I mean, just handle business. If Texas isn't allowing Cutter Bully to expose them on a couple of play action plays, we probably play some man coverage in this game, especially, get more guys around the line of scrimmage if we struggle to stop the run. Just run the football, stop the run. I mean, and that's going to take care of so many things in this. Kentucky does not have the firepower on the offensive side of the football. They're going to try to sustain drives. They're going to try to beat you to death on 1st and 3rd downs. And so if Texas can limit the 4, 5, 6 yard runs on early downs, force Kentucky to be more predictable. It gets just so much easier. Now, the only path I can see us to losing this game is if A, we lose the turnover battle, B, we allow Kentucky to outrush us, and C, we probably have to lose the turnover battle by a couple, to be honest, because I just don't see this. Yeah, I don't see Kentucky with the ability to have success in those sustained drives, consistently punch that into touchdowns, all while limiting Arch Manning and Texas on the other side of the ball. Curious, next question for you. And y'all have answered this somewhat, but if you look at the Florida game, there's a heavy emphasis on taking the ball downfield shots, a few double moves, and hey, they were open, okay, but this offensive line did not do a great job, obviously, of holding up for Arch Manning, and at the same time, on a few snaps, Arch didn't do a really good job of getting rid of the football, or maybe just getting away from traffic and throwing the ball away. How do y'all think Texas, after last week, you have a lot more efficiency, a lot more of an efficient game plan, really? They took a lot of simple short shots to keep the chains moving, didn't really, attack downfield too much or really at all in that game. What would you do if you were Steve Sarkisian in this game? And what do you think we actually see? Evan, you can go first, brother.
Yeah, there have been 3 Power 4 games that Texas has played, and they've been 3 drastically different games. The first one, you have a pretty good rushing attack, nothing crazy, but solid enough. And then Arch Manning's missing throws. You got drops all over. Disaster. And then, speaking of disaster, you got Florida, where they can't run the ball at all. They're playing from behind the entire game. And then you get Oklahoma, where the game plan is strict. You're running the ball a lot. You're using power, using the inside or outside zone plays a lot. Manning is efficient on third down. You win once you get your first touchdown. I said before that game, the team, it's a race to 10. The team that gets 10 points wins that game. So I think you kind of need to marry what was working with Florida and what was working with Oklahoma, which, Texas got to 21 points against Florida. That was their highest scoring game of those 3, because Arch Manning had in each of his drives a 30-plus yard pass. Thinking about that rub into a wheel for Ryan Livingston, or Parker Livingston, then the deep shot to Ryan Wingo, getting them mixed up there. They had those big plays. It's just that they didn't have any running game. So it's definitely a game where you're saying, let's attack on first down at the line of scrimmage. Let's run the ball. But once we get into 2nd and 4s or even 3rd and 1s in the Kentucky territory, let's take a few play action shots. Let's take the top off the defense. I know they got some length with their cornerbacks. I don't think they have the speed that you'd be looking for to cover the Wingos and Livingston. So can we find a game where one of Wingo or Livingston or Moore can get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns? I think they'd like to get that done here so that they can do it eventually against your Vanderbilt's a team that's going to run up the score a lot. And then obviously Georgia, you're going to need to be able to have a full offense and a full game for that.
I fully agree with you. How about you, Nash?
Yeah, it feels like we haven't had kind of cohesive football from the offense at all this year. And what I mean by that is none of the position groups have all been firing on all cylinders at the same time. If one position group's done good, there's always been one group that's either they had a bad game or they didn't perform up to standards. I think that the wide receivers, you look at a guy like him and Mosley, I think he himself would say, hey, that was subpar, right? That's below what I can do. I can block better, and I can I'm a sure-handed receiver that I can catch the football when Arch Manning delivers catchable balls. So it's one of these things that. I want to use the game plan that we had in the third quarter versus Oklahoma, right? Let's pound the rock. Let's throw a lot of short throws, right? Kind of what Evan said. Let's try to get towards short 2nd down and 3rd downs. But man, let's stick to these short throws, and then if we have to, we can call on Arch Manning to go downfield and get the ball downfield into these receivers' hands. Arch Manning, you look at that Parker Livingston throw. That's deep. That's deep shot down there. And I think that in my opinion, 25 yards is probably where deep throws start to happen. But that was a big time throw. And then he had another big time throw to Ryan Wingo on 3rd and 19. He goes and picks up a 15-yard completion to get us in the field goal range. So I think, going with these short throws, and then if we fall back into it, relying on Arch Manning, to get us out of some holes, I think that's kind of the game plan that I want to see. But, definitely I think Steve Sarkisian, he's always going to have his shots called in the game. That's going to happen.
And you want to continue to put things on tape, right? For a Kirby Smart, for a Clark Lee, for a Mike Elko. You want, like Evan said earlier, you want to show that you can be multidimensional, that you can hit all phases of the game in regards to the passing game. You want to show that, hey, we can take the top off. But at the same time, when we see a 3 high safety defense, we are successful in the short and the intermediate game. Evan mentioned play action passing. We have not been great on play action passing. We also haven't been terrific in play action passing, not just because of Arch Manning, just because we're not successful running the ball in some of these games. And so we'll run play action on 2nd and 9, and no one has respect for our run game. It's like, who are you fooling? Nobody bites, nobody holds on the ball fake. And so, yes, can Texas run the football and set up some play action? That would be really nice to put on tape and show, like, okay, the ways that we defend this Texas offense are starting to become very limited. You know what I mean? Almost a pick your poison type. So I think, again, Kentucky probably tries to force Texas to go the length of the field, give us opportunity to, one, shoot ourselves in the foot with pre-snap penalties, maybe bad pass blocking, and they can create more negative plays in that regard. Almost every team we play this year is going to have multiple tackles for loss. That's just part of it, part of this Texas offense and who we are. Oklahoma had a handful again. They probably could have had more than a handful. Can Texas, as you guys mentioned, can we beat them on first downs consistently? That's going to be a huge thing. Big difference between 2nd and 4 on the road and 2nd and 8 on the road. And then all of a sudden, hey, we've tried to run it 1 or 2 more times on 2nd and 8. We got to be able to run the football. You got to make Mark Stoops and that Kentucky defense respect your ability to do so, because, as you said, everything becomes so much easier. You're able to take a top off of defense because safeties cheat down. And most teams are playing this 3 high safety look against Texas, so that's why, again, you didn't see a lot of shots in the Oklahoma game. I will say that Arch and Texas, Sarkisian, were kind of taking what was there. We had the great equalizer, man, on 3rd downs to have Arch Manning. And I hate to say it, you don't want to rely on every single snap, but his ability to, on a broken play, get outside of the pocket, throw on the move, and he's making really good decisions on doing so. Y'all mentioned the Wingo catch. You had the Livingston catch. You had one to DeAndre Moore that was big early in the game. Didn't turn into any points. But, I mean, he's really, 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 becoming a big-time threat as he gets out, because we've shown, he does have wheels and he can get in the open space and make a guy miss. Or I don't know. I need more confidence from you guys. This is about to be a game. I think Arch comes on fire a little bit. I think we see the best wide receiving effort that we've seen, kind of like Nash, you're talking about, getting everybody on the same page and all, it's kind of having maybe that come out moment on offense. Again, I'm not trying to disrespect Kentucky, but I do love the trend line of this Texas offense. Need to see it back-to-back weeks, though, on that offensive line. Get the offensive line play. That goes a long dang ways, man. A long dang ways. What are you saying, Nash?
I think when you're talking about, like, especially the play action pass, I mean, when you get an offensive line that really hasn't been really known for stopping pressure on the quarterback this year, adding time to get back to that drop back to the point of throw, that's not going to really result in too many good things happening. So that's where we need the rush. We need the rush attack, like you said, to, hey, we want you to respect this rush attack. But, I mean, even then, the Oklahoma game, when Traven Weiser, I mean, you want to talk about turning chicken salad out of chicken shit. I mean, like, he's getting contacted behind the line of scrimmage, man. He's finding lanes. He's worked. Yeah. He's just never giving up on runs. I mean, I don't think that being a play action team is really going to be our calling card this year. I know you've seen a lot with Steve Sarkisian in the past but I think that, like, if you actually, Max Brown had a cool video where he was talking about, like, Steve Sarkisian's ability to adapt. His offense was completely different before he goes to Washington, right? But Steve Sarkisian's not some dude that he's going to sit there and try and, ram a square peg through a round hole. He's gonna shave that thing off, right? And he's gonna make that thing work and fit to what's mold the offense to the correct, to what's relevant, especially for his team that he has. So I think that you're seeing a lot of Steve Sarkisian kind of, moving his offense to, hey, he's kind of almost on the fly figuring out what works for this team with this role or with this personnel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a far cry to say that even Steve Sarkisian was a little bit surprised by maybe the lack of consistency with this offensive line, and so some of the things that you thought possible, you're having to retool those in your mind and saying, hey, we might not be capable of doing that. So hey, like Nash just said, let's go find what does work. And so yeah, Steve Sarkisian is really, you could tell it, like last week, really dialed the heck in on that game plan and on how to attack that Oklahoma offense. when you're running outside zone at the success level that you ran it with, obviously then it becomes a little bit easier. Nash will be right back, guys. But overall, man, not what, Evan, but if Texas were to leave Kroger Field Saturday in Lexington, Kentucky with the W, give me an offensive player and a defensive player you expect to be big contributors, therefore getting your game balls.
I wouldn't. So I'm going to say James Simon a little tentatively. He's not going to be the guy, but I think that you have to get he and Clark like really into the game, because I just don't want this to be the kind of game where you're wasting body and effort, and that comes with the Arch Manning run game. I don't want to have to use that too much. I don't want to have to use Contravian too much, because we're in the same vibe as it was last year, where you get into the playoff and he's barely holding on to his health. It wasn't his fault, it's because there wasn't a lot of running back depth behind he and Jaden Blue. So I think Simon or Clark is one of those guys that's going to be important. But when you're talking about what's going to beat this Kentucky team, I think it's going to be Ryan Wingo. I think that's the kind of player that's like, he's just going to be faster, and he can match up size-wise with these guys at Kentucky. They can run those comeback routes and those curls where they have to respect him going deep. So he's just going to come back and go grab a ball. And they're going to find one where they can leak out over top. Did you want my defensive one, or should we give Nash on the offensive?
Give me defense as well.
I think this is like a big Trey Moore bounce back game, because 2 straight games he's not been very good. Like it's been tough for him out there, and he was fine against Oklahoma. He had a rough one against Florida, and I think that like the Hills and the Smiths are starting to really show up for this team. But Texas is going to come out and base a lot, because you stop McGowan's and Dowdle, you stop all of Kentucky's offense. So they're going to be running that 3-4 kind of vibe where Moore's playing that Sam linebacker, more of a 4-3 when he's in. I think he's going to have a lot of tackles this game and get a chance to rush off the edge and get a sack or two.
I love it. So we've got Ryan Wingo and we've got Trey Moore. I will say you took one of mine, so I'm reworking it in my mind. Good call. Nash, you got offense, defense, game balls, brother.
I'm gonna go with a guy that's been really, really quiet the last few weeks. Really, a lot of high expectations for him going into this year. I think you're gonna see a big game from Jack Hendries. There's gonna be a little bit of emphasis to get him the ball, or I'm at least hoping there is. He's a really stud at tight end that I think that we really. I mean, though, you look at the last 3 games: 4 yards receptions, 2 yards receiving, 4 yards receiving. Right? It's like this guy he's a lot better than those numbers would suggest, and maybe we get him the ball on defense. It's hard not. I mean, it's so easy to go for the cheap. Anthony Hill, Leon Lofau, or Malik Michael Taff or Malik Muhammad. But I might be stealing your second one, and I'm sorry if I am. Anthony Smith. I mean, it's hard to keep dogs off the field, man. That dog's been barking, and he's dogs want to eat, right? he's been eating out there on the field. I really like Anthony Smith, and I think that he's going to continue to earn more playing time. And I mean, once Anthony Hill leaves, this is a dude that we're hanging our hat on.
Yep. And I think he's going to be ready, man, because like you just said, can't keep a dog off the field. And again, great problem for Texas to have when you have the linebacker depth that you have, and you have guys standing on the sideline who would be starting for probably 95+% of other D1 programs out there. So Nash, tell me so Ty Anthony Smith and Jack Hendries for you. I mean, I love it. I do need to see Jack incorporated a little bit more into this offense. I think he could help a lot in the short and intermediate range. We've seen what Sark can do with tight ends. We beat that horse to death. I want to see more Jack. Again, at the same time, I do think that these younger tight ends are developing pretty nicely. And so will Texas run a lot more 12 personnel sets? Probably so. You're going to want to run the football. So it might be hot hand, whoever's blocking the best out there. I think, again, I love to see Spencer Shannon kind of just punk R. Mason Thomas last week. The game's over, but just did have to reference it on that one snap there in the second half. For myself, Trey Moore was going to be my defensive guy, so I'm gonna rethink that one real quick. Great pick. Offensively, man, and Nash, he might laugh out loud at this, but I'm going back to Christian Clark. I think that he gave me 2 touchdowns and 70 yards. I need it out of Christian, man, because I've said that like 3 times this year, and I've been far from right every single time. And like Evan said, it might not be like the guy, but based on expectation, who overperforms the most. And I just, again, Clark, James Simon, I love that we said both names because they're going to be a big part of the offense on Saturday. Getting Trey a little bit of a rest. You can't have that guy out there taking, that type of beating for 4 quarters every single week, especially in the SEC play. So need Christian Clark, need James Simon. Give me Clark getting in the end zone a couple of times. 70-ish. We'll go 74 total yards between running and receiving. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go back to a guy that's an easy pick, but it's a guy who last weekend had all of us kind of shaking our heads for a moment because he had the freest interception return for a touchdown that we would have had on the season. And that's a reference to Jelani McDonald, who I'm sure has thought about that play a couple times. Not that he needs any extra motivation. The guy's playing incredible football. But this is the week where he catches the football, holds on, finds a way to get into the end zone. I love predicting defensive touchdowns. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone's like, yeah, I mean, if you get it wrong, no one cares. For one, we're still going to win the game. But for two, you know, you just don't see it all the time. Jelani with another pick or with a pick, and he gets in the end zone this time. All right, Nash, give me your score prediction real quick, brother.
I mean, it's funny. Most of the predictions have been going right along with the score was last year, 31-14. Even with me, you know, seeing all the close games from the past Red Rivers, I think Texas comes out here rolling, and I'm just going to give I'll do like a 38-9 or something like that. I think we hold them out of in the end zone, hold them to some field goals, and then they get to a point where they just start turning the ball over on 4th down, trying to, you know, because there is a point where you theoretically can still win the game if you keep on going for it on 4th down, but I just don't think we let them in the end zone.
Texas Tech versus Texas 2022. That type. Good Lord, man. You know, Nash, you got a 7.5 in confidence, but you predicted a 38-9 final score. It's not correlating, brother.
No, we've done a lot of talking since I've given that 7.5, man. You
convinced himself.
You've spoken a lot of confidence into this brand here.
When Nash and I get on together, we our confidence always ends up leaving. You know, when we get off the show, it's always a lot higher than it was when we started. Even if it went in pretty high.
One of us is going to be down, and then we're going to talk each other up. Like, hey, you know what? It's silly.
Yep, and it's a good feeling to have. I will say this, man. I've had to talk a lot of people off, you know, the ledge per se the last few weeks. I get a lot of Sunday morning audio texts and messages saying, you know, I'm done. I'm done. Guys, every football team is going to grow. Some are going to grow up, some are going to go down. But this is a program where their best football is yet to be played. I can guarantee you. Evan, what's your score prediction, Mister? What are you, 6.5 down there?
I'm sticking to my 6.5. Like a not close 20-10, where clearly the better team wins, and it's not all that crazy what it's doing on offense. But like, I think there's a turnover in there for Texas, or maybe some kind of special teams error that just makes an easy touchdown drive for Kentucky. But I think Texas is going to experiment a little bit, try to get in things that are better for the long term. So comfortable win, maybe not on the scoreboard. And people going, Texas can only beat Kentucky 20-10. They can't score points, but I think this is like a good win, just not a ton of points on the board.
At the end of the day, man, a win is a win. You know what I mean? And we've ran out of room for margin of error there.
Yeah.
So real quick, guys. So when we know, we'll let you know. Don't have a lot of news on the injuries, but do know that, you know, not expected to be the length of the season. You know, that don't expect them to miss, you know, maybe more than a couple weeks tops. And that is all that I know on that matter. You guys heard anything other than that?
You'll hear about it on Inside Texas, but we don't know the exact stuff right now.
Right. Well, so 20-10, kind of like last year in Fayetteville last November when Texas, I think it was a 20-10 game, but never really felt like Texas was going to lose that game. Got a little weird at times, but as far as the stress level goes, we had much more stressful games last year. I feel like myself, I've got 30-13 Texas. Y'all know those Quinn drives where we'd come out early with Sark and Quinn would cook. You know, even if he struggled the last week or a couple weeks in a row. It looks like a really big emphasis on getting him going, especially in the short and the mid-range game. I kind of expect that to open the game for Texas. I kind of feel like it's an Arch Manning, get the rhythm going early, get him and these receivers acclimated, on the road in a night setting, and that hopefully opens the doors for a lot of fun. I got just Kentucky not being explosive enough and Texas playing pretty clean offensively. I think that we'll continue to see growth in the whole pre-snap penalty department, not a ton of shooting ourselves in the foot. At least I'm praying so, guys. We did much better there last week. All right. Any final words, final takes before we let these people out of here and enjoy the rest of our Thursday nights?
I just like the John Wall reference. Shout out DC.
Say it again for me.
I like the John Wall reference. Got the DC right back there.
Oh yeah, baby.
We
were all doing that after every bucket. Go ahead, Nash.
I'm just laughing at the thought of us having like 3 3rd and 24s because we've had just bad penalty. Look, we had only 4 penalties. I'm not trying to complain,
ended
right. I'll take it, right, but they were rather untimely. So let's get better timing on these things.
Again, that's one of those things. Just don't beat ourselves this week. Don't turn the ball over a lot. Don't help them out with pre-snap penalties. Don't put yourself behind the chains. Win on first downs and still continue to be successful the way that we were last week on third downs. Hey, if this Texas offense can convert on third downs, after hopefully setting ourselves up for success on first and second downs, again, going to get really, really tough on these defensive coordinators down the line. Not trying to get ahead of myself, but we are on a nice trend line. Got to continue on Saturday, though, against an inferior Kentucky opponent. Nash, thank you for joining me. Evan, great to meet you, and thank you for joining me, my friend. Guys, go subscribe to Inside Texas. Go join for $1 right now. Also, like this video. Tell a friend to do the same. Thank you all for being here. Y'all have a great night.